Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Jacob and Jimmy in the Morning.
Today's topic is March Madness in the aftermath of Selection Sunday,
Today we will be discussing which four teams will make it to the round of 64.
as well as some upset alerts and who we think is going to win it all.
Our first topic of this podcast is which will be the final four teams to make it to the round of 64. And the first matchup we have here is Mount St. Mary's versus University of New Orleans.
Well, Jacob, this is a pretty interesting matchup. For the first time, New Orleans has made it in the tournament, and St. Mary's started the season 1-11. So it's an impressive feat for both teams just to make it this far.
Without a doubt. What I like about this matchup is that for both teams, is that winning this game is for pride because both know there isn't a good chance they can beat Villanova. So, Jimmy, who do you have winning this game?
I have Mount St. Mary's because I think they're the team with the hot hand.
The second matchup of this last four is Wake Forest versus Kansas State.
I really like this game a lot. Both teams, they found themselves on the bubble of making the round of 64. And both teams are coming off decent seasons, but not the best seasons. Wake Forest ranked 7th in the nation with offensive efficiency, while Kansas State came 31st in defensive efficiency. So I think I'm going to go with Wake Forest in this game because they bring the energy on the floor, and they're quick up and down the court, making Kansas play a lot more offense than defense.
I agree here, Jimmy. I like Wake Forest in this game, too. I like the high-powered offense they had, and they had some very good competition by playing in the ACC this season.
Mm-hmm.
The second matchup we have here is North Carolina Central versus UC Davis. So, Jimmy, what do you think about this matchup?
So these teams are in both the same situation as Mount St. Mary's and University of New Orleans. Both teams won their conference to make it to the tournament, and both will probably be eliminated by Kansas. This is UC Davis's first trip ever to the tournament, and North Carolina Central's second trip to the tournament.
Very good point, Jimmy. My pick for this game is North Carolina Central based on experience, points per game, and points per game against. Remember, though, whatever team wins will probably not make it past Kansas.
Absolutely.
Our fourth and final matchup is USC versus Providence. This is going to be a very fun game between one very exciting offense and one very exciting defense.
Yes, it really is. For this game, I'm probably going to go with USC in their offense. USC had a very disappointing defeat to the rival UCLA in the Pac-12 tournament, but I think they're a very good team and they should be able to bounce back from that. Whereas Providence, they were pretty much smacked by Creighton in the Big East tournament. So that's why I have USC winning, because their ability to capitalize on the rush and convert the basket.
Well, I didn't expect you to pick the offense beats defense in this situation. I too have USC beating Providence based on their outstanding offensive attack.
In this section, Jacob and I will be talking about potential first-round upset alerts.
That's right, Jimmy. The first upset I have in my bracket is New Mexico State beating Baylor.
Good game. Why is that?
Well, Jimmy, Baylor is 6-6 in their last 12 games and have gone completely ice cold, whereas New Mexico State is on a bit of a hot streak, winning 9 of their last 12, including the WAC championship. Expect New Mexico State to come out hard, fast, and get a lot of rebounds and surprise a superior team in Baylor. All right, Jimmy, what is one upset that you have here?
I think Florida Gulf Coast is going to beat Florida State in the first round. The reason why I say that is Florida Gulf Coast, no matter how good their team is, they always work their way into the tournament and they always come to play when it comes to March Madness. So I really do think that's a possibility for them to upset Florida State.
All right, Jimmy, my other upset is Middle Tennessee over Minnesota.
Oh, why is that?
This team has a lot of players from last year's team that beat the number 2 seed Michigan State Spartans, but this time they have a better seed and more experience than last year's squad. Middle Tennessee has a very good defense, and this is one of the few scenarios where I think defense will beat offense. Expect Minnesota to put up a good but futile fight.
I'm quite surprised that you picked a defensive team over an offense.
All right, Jimmy, what is the last upset alert that you have for our listeners here?
The last upset that I have is going to be Gonzaga versus South Dakota State. Gonzaga is a great team, don't get me wrong, but the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State, they've played well out of the Summit League, and I think out of all the number 1 teams, Gonzaga is the easiest one to take down.
All right, for our last and final section here, we have who will be our champion. So I'm going to let Jimmy start this off and tell us who his champion will be.
I'm going to say North Carolina, and that's for one reason and one reason only, and that's experience. I think what Carolina has that a lot of other teams lack is older guys that know and have been in this situation before. so they can handle it under the pressure. You know, Isaiah Hicks, Kennedy Meeks, Joel Berry, they've all been here before. So I think that's what's going to make them better than everyone else in this tournament.
Well, I got their arch rival in the Duke Blue Devils. I think they've been playing well all throughout the ACC tournament, and I really do think this is going to carry over into the tourney. They got Grayson Allen, who's been absolutely dominant when he's been hot, and then they got Luke, who's also been really, really good from the three-point line. And this team is very, very solid when it comes to shooting free throws. All right, folks, that's all we have here today. Thank you for tuning in.
Be sure to listen to us next week while Jacob and I are going to be talking about the Sweet 16 and later in depth into the tournament.